Alright, this is Rob here. I'm going to put some markups up on your drawing here, your PowerPoint, give you some feedback on that. So I'll come back to this in a minute. So this is good. That's an awfully big dot. What city would that be in? That would be helpful. And that's to a warmer climate you travel south. So this would be in the hot dry. I would do this as hot dry zone. Maybe say something about that and what that might mean for what does that mean for design. I believe Lake Florida is always in Texas, right? Texas varies between hot and humid and dry. Well, maybe you have that in. Oh, here we go. Great. So again, I would come back here and I'd put the site on here because otherwise I don't know. Temperature changes occurring faster pace than usual within 15 years. So I would definitely get the site on here. This is good. See, that's analysis, and people need to adapt to growing other crops and live what is considered to become the norm. Good. How did that affect the project? Probably didn't, but we'll see. Poverty is considered less than $2. So in the area, in your area, I guess maybe that's not important here. I'm trying to figure out what's the, oh, this is your cultural perspective, right? I see. Let me just go back for a minute. So here's your system. So here you looked at temperature as a system. You could also look at precip. I think that might be important given how dry and or humid it might be in your zone. I would definitely look at that. I might look at winds. But maybe you have that later at other scales. So let me see what you guys did. Probably did. I'm going to come back to that. And okay, here we go. So the project's in Arizona. Arizona's located and it does not have a major body of water next to it. The hot climate together with creates a desert-like environment. That's true. Where is your site? It's always good to see where the site is. Okay, and then this implies certain responses, or you might expect certain responses in the architecture. Well, this is interesting. This is a very interesting chart. The water flow in Arizona comes to Arizona, which consists of surface where most of the water supply comes from Arizona's groundwater supply. Interesting. I didn't know that. A large amount of water is irrigated so that it may reach into the agriculture industry is not very large, and that is evident in this. So, I guess what I want to get out of this is, on one hand, you're using groundwater for farming. So is there a lot of water, or is water scarce here? I would like to get a little bit of a... I think you're on the right track with this slide. You're giving me context, but why should I care? And then you made a circle around irrigation, but I'm not quite sure why. I'm more interested in, for example, the building. So I want to know, I mean, that's important to know, but I'm actually really interested in how it affects the building. And how did it affect the building design? So later, you're going to come back and refer back to this. So you can take a look at that when we get to it. There's a native, many traditions are passed down and complete a continuous cycle that caters to the people. Well, Mexico's culture and heritage across over the border has intertwined itself with Arizona. So true, although... Well, I would say that you have sort of a collision of worldviews. You have this sort of an European industrial view, and then you have the indigenous view, which is more hunter-gatherer. And it'd be interesting to understand more about how would you say that these people have been treated by the invaders. And I am also interested in this thing with Mexico. I'm also interested in border crossing and understanding some more of the social issues associated with border crossing from Mexico to the U.S. I think it's interesting that you have the slide. I mean, I think you're on the right track with the slide. So interesting. Okay, this is going to be our experience. Now, one thing I might mention is, one, this looks like a 3D model, which is interesting. So it's not a real experience. Plus, I'd rather be at eye level for an experience in the bioregional. But since it's bioregional, I see why you're up in the air. It really does give a sense of the landscape and what it feels like to be there. However, I might want to zoom into town. Is this thing into a town? Actually, I still don't know based on where you are where this project is. Let me just check. So it's in Tempe. Okay, so I know it's in Tempe. So I might zoom in a little bit more on Tempe and the region right around it, which does look like this. So that's a good, although I'd still rather have some eye level. Still rather have some eye level here like this, you know, just what does it look like to be in the space. And I think that's interesting. So not much greenery due to hot climate. Most of the buildings are clustered together to create shade. So when you say clustered together, what does that mean from an experience point of view? Are there typically courtyards? And how do those feel? You might have like just a prototype here of what. Remember, you can have multiple slides for some of these too, by the way. So, you know, this is really a passive design response from a systems point of view. And really, I'm interested in this one, in experience. Like, what is going on regionally? Talks about experience. And I guess critical regionalism is really an interesting. I've been to Tempe. I think it's, I guess it's pretty interesting. District scale. Let's say, okay, so this is helpful. Where is the site itself? I still want to know that, but that's very helpful. You know, you see Phoenix here. Right. So does that mean it's an easily accessible site? Right? Is that what you're trying to say there? Tempe is located in Phoenix. So there is a okay, so this also prevalent. Right, that's interesting. So where is the university on this map? You want your map, you know, you want your map and your words to kind of work together. I'm starting to get a picture of how that plays out in the design. Maybe this is a university building. I should have looked. I don't remember. Flows. The amount of, now we're getting to rainfall, which is fine. I know why you waited on that. But what does that mean? So what does that mean for design? Does the design account for this or not, and or what recommendations or analysis do you make from this? Is should water be collected in July? Amount of water in so that's interesting. So they have more water than usual. Watch your types there. They say more rainfall in other parts. They still have droughts, and when they receive the rains all at once. So to me, that's like flags for design opportunity. I'm thinking, that's like, what can I do about that? How can I take advantage of that? Tempe attracts younger generation to its advanced nightlife because of ASU, which means what? You got to go a little deeper. Well, here you can do that. There's an enormous amount of teens and young adults. So really this, you know, I need, is it, you know, is there energy? Is there, what's the culture? Is it excitement? Is it just a bunch of beer drinkers? I mean, just because you say that doesn't necessarily, you know, is it an intellectual culture? Is it, you know, is it big for the arts? I'd like to know more about, and here, this is totally an experience picture, right? I'd rather see a picture of people interacting in space in some sort of cultural venue, just to give a sense, or multiples. Actually, I might want to see like 4 pictures here, giving me some of the different cultural, not necessarily quadrants, just different pictures, giving me different feelings of what the culture is going to feel like there. And then I would bring back the indigenous, because you have an indigenous culture and you have clearly a Western college culture. Do they clash? Do they get along? Etc. Now again here, see, I would do this as eye level. And the first thing I realize here is, although I kind of like this because I see this Tempe's a little greener than maybe the desert that you've shown before, but this doesn't really give me a sense of what it's like to be in the space. I mean, if I'm standing here and looking at that building and that, I don't know if that's good or not. And this looks like a terrible building, by the way. So I don't really know what the feeling is like to be here. So yeah, good. Okay, that's good. Does not feel like it is. That's good. Very good. Which means something for water. And if I go back to your systems, so it looks to me like there's an impact on water use. And I wonder if they're collecting their water or not in the project. So again, more eye level and more varied pictures. I would have multiple pictures here. So, there we go. I know where you are now. So you're off a main road here, right? Which is kind of important. And I guess if I go back to district, I guess I would rather see a little bit more of like a Google map with some of these streets in here. I think this map's a little too generic now that I look at it. So sorry, you asked me for feedback, so I'm giving you feedback. All right, mostly dominated by pedestrian walkways with the exception of University Drive. So what I would do there is in my systems, I would show a picture of walkways so that you can reinforce that. Like, for example, I see this. That does seem like a big highway. I'm wondering if that's a bridge there, probably is what that is. And there, oh look, there's the, it looks like the stadium that we just saw. Maybe not. Wells Fargo. Ugh, hate them. All right, so here, this is good, right? So did it impact design? Probably not. So I guess we'd have to figure out, is that important for the story? I'm not sure. Here you got your solar. Most of the buildings around the site have taken advantage of orientation of prevailing wind. Is that true? So you're saying that the prevailing winds are perpendicular to the site. I guess that means coming this way. And I really like to see a more clear example. Again, you can have multiple slides here. A clear example of how that works. Although at this point I'm more interested in site planning and landscape. You had talked about more greenery, and I was curious what the systems were to support that greenery. Where does the water come from? How is it delivered? I'm assuming there's a lot of irrigation that is used for the landscapes. I'm also interested in habitat. Is there any habitat, any animal systems? Interested in circulation systems, pedestrian versus car versus van. And I can see that I have my site here, which is very helpful. Culture. There we go. So basically what I see here is mindless athlete. Oh, that's so mean. I'm sorry, that's so mean. So clearly Tempe, and this is a college building, right? So we think of college as a cultural thing for sure. And the question might be, what kind of college? Is it a beer drinking college? Is it an academic? Is it a beer plus sports college? If so, what does that mean? A young atmosphere doesn't totally give me a lot. And now we're talking about the site itself. So we're actually within the university at this point. So I'm curious about if I go back here, I'm curious about, for example, culturally speaking, is that an important open space? Because it seems like the building opens up to a couple important outdoor spaces all around it, actually. And this looks like a really big promenade. So culturally speaking, I might be more interested in how the site is reinforcing the college culture, and then we'll get into the building later. So this is okay. So this is actually more of a systems diagram, right, which is very useful. So I think that's my site, which could be a little clearer. And what I would say here is, this Kuja School is based on you. Feels like you're inside of town. Sounds like you've been there before. So site is well served by public transportation. Now this is a district map, by the way. So I might want to zoom in and just see that. I'm curious, the red is residential core. That's important for culture as well, by the way. This really wouldn't be necessarily an experience. I would like to see what it feels like to be on the Palm Walk and how it feels. And I guess this would be a decent diagram for urban or regional scale. All right, so this is good. So what do we got here? Existing green space. I talked about that before. 1950s wing with good bones. Oldest, most inefficient piece of the building. Proposed preliminary concept which have reduced green space and preserved. Okay. These are different concepts, I guess. So here's some good, right? So this is good. So they got some interesting. This is not performance here. I'm mostly interested in these things. So is it a large building? Is it an expensive building? I'm not so worried about experience. And I don't really know what prevalent means. I think it's announcing itself to people. This is a great systems diagram, by the way. Looks like your sources are not. I'm wondering about your sources. So this is great. So here you might want to do a bunch of. So So the rain capture makes a lot of sense given the storm, the proximity or the rainfall that comes very short. Native landscape, that's great. So that also relates to rain. Large overhangs allow daylight good. Semi-private healing. So if I go back now, what's missing here is the energy plus water performance. Was this a LEED building or did it have any metrics? You know what I'm saying? Existing buildings were preserved. That's great. So how much? So that's going to save how much embodied energy? You may have to estimate, but as a strategy, that's a great strategy for saving embodied energy. What if I just write it here? Would it be easier to see? Embodied. Wow, that didn't work, did it? Huh? Funny. Okay. Filter the water as it sinks into the ground. Is that really true? I don't know. Maybe. Overhangs, right? Okay, so rain changes use direct water into the underground reservoir. See, that is what I'm more interested in. What's the goal here from a strategy point of view? Are they trying to direct that? That's good. See, that's good. 69 kW. So that should relate to some sort of energy profile for this building, right? Well, that's cool. So here, these could be also experience. Everyone strives to be sustainable. Everyone? The use of bikes, is that really true? Or is that sort of, that sounds more like a campus statement. I'm more interested in at this point is the building. Self-scanning allow for interaction. So interactions are good. I definitely want to know how the building reinforces culture. You know what I'm missing also in here? If I go back, I'm missing floor plans. I'd like to see some floor plans of the building. So this again is too high to be experienced. So experience should be eye level, but I see what's going on here. So that's more of a systems, building oriented reinforce activates. So that's culture, preserve green supports yoga and meditation, culture. That's experience and also systems. That's a double. Sister Sheepers recording with camp. That's cool, but that is a food production. So that's performance and systems. And bicycle racks, that's equity, and I would say that's social equity or culture. So really this is not an experience drawing, this is more systems and culture. It's a great holistic look, and the building's actually pretty cool. And actually this is one of the best pictures I've seen. And what I really want to know is what's it like walking up and down here and seeing the building from the Palm Walk. And surprisingly none of these pictures show, oh my gosh, where is my experience for this building? I really don't. Here I feel the building, and it's got this amazing tower. I don't understand that. Is that, I don't see that tower here, so I'm a little confused. Finally a floor plan. This floor plan, this is actually a site plan. This is actually hard to read as a building. I guess that's parking. So here's the Palm Walk here, which is good. Yeah, so I think that's, I can kind of read the drawings. I mean, I can kind of read them, but they're small. And I'm really wondering, like, from a site scale, like, what's happening here? Does that used and it's green, and why is it green? And okay, good. Okay, so sometimes I'm confused myself. I mean, to me, this is more building, but I haven't quite determined yet. And this is experience, by the way. This could be very good for experience. It's sort of a shaded walkway in here. I'm not sure I love it, but it certainly shows something. And that's an interesting systems expression right there. So these are very useful. Shady open air, replace condition, double height, double loaded core. Okay, so that's good. Are kept up high to supply low. Yeah, that's not that magical. That's sort of normal. Use of pessimism takes care of all heating loads that are generated through. I don't know if that's true, but that's interesting. When you do something like that, you definitely need a source for that, because that's sort of the statement. The center patch is kept long inverted. That's good. Yeah, this is definitely guiding flows, so I think that's working out pretty well. And I like the fact that you put that in there. And I'm really interested from an experience point of view. Like, that is just kind of a nice way of thinking about how you bring people in and compress and then expand in terms of space. So let's see what you did for experience. Okay, so you have the bike racks here. That's good. So here you might also Was this a LEED building? I don't remember. You might just want to talk about why. This would be like, why is it sustainable? Like, you never talked about why the university wanted to make it sustainable. You said everybody's sustainable. Ah, there we go. Well, that's interesting. So that space is getting a lot of direct sunlight, although it is somewhat shaded. I'm surprised to see that much glass. I don't know which direction that's facing. This definitely works for experience, and you really want to talk about that, which is really an interesting roof element. And you have your prospect out here, you have your refuge here, you got a great view out. I think that works pretty well. The space looks very, the amount of light coming in does not look as shaded as I expected. I'd imagine there's a lot of glare in there. But the wood certainly gives you a feeling. Oh, here we go. This is good. Okay, so you did that. That's good. Wood, glass, metal reflect light in different ways. Is that good? I mean, I think I need some more opinion out of you. I mean, if you really like this space, you need to sell me on it. I'm not convinced that this is a good space. You've been there. I wonder about acoustics and if it's loud in there. It looks like a very hard space. But I have to say, I do like the wood, and it looks like the ceiling kind of comes up at the edge here. It does relate to the site very well. It has a nice indoor-outdoor. Interestingly enough, it looks like, so that's a solar panel right there, I believe. That's interesting. So using those as shading elements. So yeah, I'd love to see a little more on experience. I'd like to see some more spaces. I really want to see the one where it goes like this. I'm drawing a section, if you remember, and then it goes up like that. I really want to get. I got one room. I'd like to get a better sense. For 35 points, I think I can ask for that. Good. So hopefully this is helpful. Overall, I think you have a good start. And I'm going to send this file to you, right?